One of the pleasures of being a portrait photographer are the wonderful conversations we often have with our subjects. In this short film, I share my conversation with the architects and passive house designers, Laura Blau and Paul Thompson.
So who are we? We're Paul Thompson, Laura Blau, and we live and work in our 180-year-old passive house retrofit that is at 1722 Pine in the Rittenhouse Historic District of Philadelphia.
Yeah, I became an architect because I started as a music major in college. I played music. I had not done any art. Didn't really know anything about art. Didn't know any artists. But I did play music. My dad played music. And then after a couple years in college, I found out what music majors did. And I knew I was not good enough to perform for the Philadelphia Philharmonic. I played clarinet. And I didn't want to teach high school band. I had been taking engineering classes and I found out what engineers did. And I knew I didn't want to do that too, so I looked for the perfect combination of the arts and sciences.
My grandfather was an architect, and I helped with job site cleanup on a modification of a house when I was a teenager. Of being an artist and getting into tools led me to renovating a loft at 13th and Callow Hill when we moved here. And then my landlady hired me to do her conference room, and her manager had me do a kitchen. The next thing I knew, I had a design-build business.
Well, and environmental concerns are pretty obvious, like we're in the midst of an existential crisis that maybe it's not going to affect us too much in our lifetime, but it's definitely going to affect our kids' future and all the kids after that. Right now we're sitting in a passive house, which means airtight construction, continuous insulation. We bring in fresh air through a HEPA-filtered energy recovery ventilator. But one of the true luxuries is that with the triple pane windows, it's very quiet in here. There's very little dust because all the air that comes into the house is HEPA filtered. And probably the biggest thing for someone who lives in a city like Philadelphia, you know what I'm going to say?
No mice.
No mice.
Buildings are 40% of the carbon footprint of the planet. Everyone thinks it's all cars and stuff. But buildings use a lot of energy, both embodied energy and all the materials that go into it and all the waste that is resulting from that, but also in the utilization energy, which is the energy you use to heat and cool it and light it and run your computers and all that kind of stuff. And so if you understand the reality and the existential crisis that we're in with climate change, and you're an architect, how can you not embrace and learn how to make buildings that will help us survive culturally and health-wise and any number of wise? It's just essential, and it's a big piece of the puzzle that we need to solve in order to mitigate this.
With design conflicts, we work through it. To back up, I would say that Laura comes from the artistic side, and I come from, although I'm not an engineer, have never been an engineer, but I have an engineering degree. So I understand that sort of way of making decisions. And so I approach a design project problem from one way, and Laura approaches from another side.
Yeah, I think that I often talk about Archie Bunker scene from All in the Family when he wants to go fishing with Meathead, and he goes into Meathead at 4 a.m, and Meathead isn't up yet, and he wakes him up and he starts to put his socks and shoes on, and Archie says, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm putting my socks and shoes. That's not how you put your socks and shoes on. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Well, you're doing a sock and a sock and a shoe and a shoe. That's stupid. You need to do a sock and a shoe and a sock and a shoe. So they have this argument. And of course, in the end, everyone gets their shoes and socks on. So that is the metaphor I use for how we approach things, not with that animosity that, that Meathead and Archie have, but the initial approach is he's thinking about this and I'm starting here. We get to the same place, but our process is in many ways, it's different. We've developed this thing called the values and goals conversation. Because we are particularly interested in promoting resilient, sustainable, low-carbon buildings, we need to have that conversation with our clients who are laymen, and have everyone that comes to us wants a sustainable building, but what does that mean? That's a really fuzzy, vague word, right? So we have about 12 items that we discuss, and some of it is the practical things like what's your budget and what's your aesthetic, basic aesthetics, some practical things like that. But it is a lot focused on what is sustainability? Is it water conservation? Is it embodied energy, utilization energy? Is it solar PV panels on your roof? Trying to drill down and ask questions, and then, health and indoor air quality and views to the outside. And in this deep conversation, we are trying to dig underneath and find what drives the answers, right, that we're getting. I'm more of the risk taker, and I work more from my gut and intuitive. I'm more emotional, and Paul is like the rock.
I've had a few projects where, after a few years of designing things and paying attention, you understand what the spaces are going to be like as you're drawing them. And it's all about imagination. As we are designing, we are imagining what is this space or this place or this room going to be like when it's in real life. And so most of the time, there's not a whole lot of surprises. But what does happen occasionally is there's a beautiful way the light comes through a window and touches a wall. It's like, I didn't imagine that. And it's like, wow, that's where the magic happens. And and that's not something you can even really design. We all start with this, right? This is the blank. Even though we're making things, we all start with this, and that can be really difficult. If do we have a writer's block or artist block or architect's block? Sometimes. But personally, I start with what I know, and it might just be as simple as, I know I need a stair, right? Because I got to get from here to here. Or this is where the front of the house is, and there's a tree here. Or the owners say, biophilia, that's the sort of interaction of bringing outside nature into a building. That was one of those things that they really identified in the values and goals as being one of the most important things. And so how does that translate from an idea and a concept into a real thing? That's part of the design process that's really exciting. That's the artistic spark, but you've got to find a spark or else nothing happens. It's really interesting as an architect is that our clients trust us, right, to make spaces that actually work for them. And part of that trust is, right, the artistic part of architecture. We are imagining and designing spaces that don't exist, that will only be built once. 480 or 460,000 row homes in Philadelphia. Many of them are historic like this, and they all need to be updated. We don't we don't use whale oil for lighting anymore. We live in a contemporary world, even though we're in Philadelphia, right? Whenever Philadelphia was founded 300 years ago, and we need to make sure that our housing and our buildings are modernized also. It's part of that crisis of buildings using 40% of the energy in the world, and there's not enough people that understand that or want to do it.